boys who are poor need not apply in Obama's America. They don't fit in. They go to the back of the bus. How do you feel about Barack Obama going on some dummy show who is working for the government now and says to him, "Ooh, can you explain your great program, My Brother's Keeper, Mr. Stalin?" And Mr. Stalin says to him, "Oh, yes. Oh, yeah. We're going to focus on young men of color." And so, in other words, if you're pink, you have no color. You're invisible. You are no longer a man. If you're a poor white boy, you don't live in Obama's America. Whether you like this or not, that's your president. Don't blame me, blame him. If you're outraged by what I'm telling you, I can't help you. You elected him, not me. I wrote 2 books about him, Trickle Up Poverty and Trickle Down Tyranny. Both New York Times bestsellers, whether you want to know it or not. That's who I am. I tried to warn you what was coming, but you didn't want to listen to me. So if you want to comment on reparations of My Brother's Keeper, where white boys need not apply, the phone number is 855-47282. And again, I extend this invitation to the president, as I did a Monday ago, 10 days ago, following the O'Reilly interview with him. And it was 10 questions that O'Reilly didn't ask the president. I would welcome sitting down with President Obama over a greasy Chinese meal in San Francisco in my favorite restaurant. No cameras, no notes, no microphones, just shrimp and Napa cabbage, greasy dumplings, tables that you need a food handler to... But the food is amazing. And there are 10 questions that I would ask the president because I want to put aside the enmity and the distrust that this man has created in this nation. He is the least available president in American history, the least trustworthy, the one that 71% of Obama voters regret they voted for. So I mean that. I would like to sit down with him. Look where this president goes. He goes to a basketball player to introduce an initiative where white boys need not apply. It's really sickening. It really is. I mean, it's really sickening, to be honest with you. I could see the president saying, look, we want to give poor people a heads up, start in life. And it doesn't matter what your race is, your religion, or your creed. No one knows what creed means, but your race, religion, or creed doesn't matter. And if you're poor and your parents don't have money, you have no money, we're going to help you. Good. I'd be 100% for that. How can you exclude a whole race without being a racist? Now, first of all, what he said is patently illegal. It's immoral and it's fattening. It's incomprehensible that a president would have such poor judgment as to say that there's going to be a program for young men of color and exclude white people. But we have to play it because I want you to know what's going on behind the scenes. That's my job. Now, he knows that the Democrat Party's in trouble right now. I don't think that they're politically insane, but you never know what this guy could do. So we're talking about that, my new novel, Countdown to Mecca. It's a war that's been spanning millennium, a war of attrition spanning millennium, said Sutcliffe. I guess we can wait a little longer. That's on page 65 of Countdown to Mecca. In this book, the title itself is eerie, given the timing of this event and what's going on in the world. Countdown to Mecca. It's a chilling proposition in this novel. A great story.
Warning. The Savage Nation contains adult language, adult content, psychological nudity. Listener discretion is advised. And now, America's most exciting radio talk show, The Savage Nation, home of unprotected talk, borders, language, culture. And here he is, Michael Savage.
You're listening to the Memorial Day special on the Savage Nation, where we salute the troops 24/7. God bless the American military. Huckleberry Finn needs music right now in order to keep going. Huckleberry needs... Wait a minute, stop. No. Didn't you get me Offenbach for today? You said you had Offenbach today. Nothing. Different world. All right, and I made my point. Sometimes I drift off in reveries, and I used to dream, and people used to say to me, if you could be born any time, where would you like to be born? I hope God's not listening because he's liable to say, all right, I heard that. I was listening to your show. I had nothing to do with it. What happens the day I go to to heaven and God says, I was listening on January 7th, 2010. Didn't you say that you wanted to be born in 1870? No, I'm just kidding, God. Well, no, I take you seriously. I mean, you think you're so important. So you're going to be reborn in 1870 in France. No, please. I don't want to eat rotten cheese. Please. I don't want to live in a place where there's no hot running water. And although I like garlic, God, I don't want to be around everybody else who has garlic breath, if you don't mind. There was no mouthwash in those days. I could turn it into a show topic. When would you like to be reborn? You know, if you could pick it, what would it be? I just always liked that period. I even like the art of that period. All of the Impressionists were painting around then. I mean, through certainly 30 years and more beyond that, but that's about when it began. If my Art 101 memory, is still operational. You know, one of my hobbies is boating. And you know what I have in my hand? I'm like a kid in a toy shop now. I used to buy, I bought cups, old Navy cups, from a guy up in Seattle. Like cups and saucers from a captain's ship. Plates. And they're like brand new. I don't know how he got them. Oh, they're beautiful. They're costly. I love the heavy china. I can't wait to have a cup. You ever have coffee in a Navy cup? Heavy cups of a certain type? They're not made of melamine, I'll tell you that right now. It says lead-free, but they're not melamine. These were not made in China. These were made for the U.S. Navy when they were still made in America. You know what I mean? Before Clinton took power. Before you can't even find a cup anymore in a store not made somewhere else. Heavy, you hear? You hear that? Just the sound of it. I feel like I'm Admiral Rickover holding. No, I can't explain it. Every time I go on my boat, it's cold. I want to have a cup of coffee. It's the first thing I want. Even if I had one at home. Now I have a cup finally to do it with. There is something about a cup of coffee on a boat, particularly wet and cold out here. It's horrible. It's like a nightmare. It's like Noah's Ark. It's like 40 days and 40 nights without let up. I can't stand the weather. The only reason I'm mentioning it, which is a no-no in talk radio, because, like it's national, and you shouldn't tell them what time is or weather, because there's so many zones and weather. Because I'll tell you why. Although San Francisco is backwards in every other way, socially, we're just the anus of the empire out here in terms of social disorder. But in so many other ways, what happens here first will hit you next. So get ready for the storms that are coming. We've had day after day after day. I mean, rain like you can't believe. And so it's going into the Midwest, and it'll hit the East Coast in 3 days. So get ready for another wonderful series of blizzards. I never saw it like this. It must be global freezing. How do you like it? I did remember it was like this once before, but I've lived in the islands, in Samoa once, and in Fiji. You ever read the book Rain by Somerset Maugham? Well, I lived through Rain by Somerset Maugham. When the children were very young and I was collecting plants in Fiji, we were in a little house in Suva with a tin roof. You cannot believe what it's like to live under a rainstorm in the tropics that doesn't let up for 20 or 30 days in a row. It can really get on your nerves. It can really make you want to listen to Jim Morrison and take him literally. I'm telling you. There's just nowhere to go with it. Play Jim Morrison for a minute on the Savage Nation. It's time to listen to Jim Morrison. We realize that the DDT and other toxic chemicals, probably PVC, did hurt you neurologically. There's no question. That's where the tremors come from. And the bizarre statements that you make on television. And it's only a matter of time until Daddy GE dumps you. Very soon, Daddy GE is going to just send you You're going to come to work one day, sir, and they're not going to let you in the building. There's going to be a cardboard box waiting for you outside of the MSNBC building. In it, you will find the remnants of your once glorious past. All of it will be behind you. And then, of course, you'll try talk radio, but Air America's gone. So what's left for you? That's why I say, sir, it's time to listen to Jim Morrison and take him literally. On michaelsavage.com, you can see all the important stories. So we're talking about that, my new novel, Countdown to Mecca. How do I know all these things? How do I have the ability to describe advanced aircraft, advanced weapons, generals, what West Point looks like, Mossad? How do I have the ability to create Mossad agents and talk about stations in Israel? How do I know all of these things? How did I figure it out? How do I create a Jewish gangster who doesn't exist? How do I create a Jack Hatfield? Where do these things come from? My imagination, that's where. And that's what a novel is supposed to be. It's supposed to be novel, new. What does novel mean? Interesting, new. That's all it means. Say, oh, that's a novel idea, right? That's what it means. So it's a story. So I don't know these people. I don't know any Jewish gangsters. And I could make a joke, but no, I don't know any Jewish gangsters. I don't know any generals. I don't know any hookers. I don't know any disgraced journalists. I don't know any clowns who had been in motorcycle accidents. but I invent them. I remember when I was younger, I used to think about Shakespeare's many characters, like in one play. He'd have the fool, he'd have the king, he'd have the daughter, he'd have the. I said, how could he come up with all these characters? How do they exist in his mind without him getting lost and not knowing who he is? I know it was a problem for me when I was young, when I didn't have presence of mind. It's very hard when you're forming your personality and you're growing up to understand that you can have all of these characters visualized in your own head without losing yourself. Do you understand that? Now, I never had this discussion ever in the world with anyone or on radio. And I've thought about actors, why they're so, I want to use the exact word I'm looking for, why actors are so shallow. You take a guy like Sean Penn, you know he's a shallow, empty soul. You can look at him and know he's a fraud. You know he doesn't know himself from his characters. You know he can't differentiate the real Sean Penn from the phonies he plays, the fake tough guys. And it's the same with many of the people in the media. They get lost in their characterizations on screen with who they are, which is why so many of them are on drugs and alcohol. Why they go into rehab. They don't know who they are. They're very good at what they do. I love acting. I love movies, as you know. I watch movies very frequently. I admire it enormously, but I don't look to them for political ideas or any leadership. Most of them are empty heads who couldn't go to a regular college, so they went into acting. Not all of them, but most of them in America are not well educated. They don't even know the world around them, which is not true, by the way, in all countries. But nevertheless, in our country, most of them are empty and shallow, just as you would expect. But the point I'm making is that most actors lose themselves in their role in real life, and they start acting out one of the roles they played or they portray in movies in real life, and they don't know who they are. And they get frightened when confronted with the question of who they are. I don't suffer from that. I did when I was young. Don't get me wrong. There was a time in my life when I was younger when it was very hard to know who I am. That's a great question. Who am I? Did you ever ask yourself that question? That's a nice question for a rainy afternoon. But as a great philosopher wrote, I think, therefore I am. I've changed that slightly to I speak, therefore I am. And so let's turn back to the talk show called The Savage Nation. Dem senator accuses Obama of sexism toward Elizabeth Warren. You talk about the insanity of the left. Democratic Senator Sherrod Brown. I don't know what Sherrod Brown is. What is a Sherrod Brown? Is that a flavor of ice cream? Democratic Senator Sherrod Brown accuses President Obama of sexism in his attacks on Senator Elizabeth Warren, also a Dem. He said in a tweet, reporters, I think the president was disrespectful to her by the way he did that. Made this more personal. I think referring to her as her first name when he might have not have done that for a male senator. Perhaps I've said enough. See, the president said that she's a politician like all others. I know we have it. I want to ask you, don't call me on it. It's not sexist. It's that she's against this trade bill. And, play it. Just play it. Let's listen and see what it sounds like.
The truth of the matter is that, Elizabeth is, a politician like everybody else. And, she's got a voice that she wants to get out there. And I understand that. And on most issues, she and I deeply agree. On this one, though, her arguments don't stand the test of fact and scrutiny.
What's wrong with that? He didn't say anything sexist. He called her Elizabeth because she's a friend of his. So this Sherrod Brown ice cream flavor, also a senator, I don't know the difference. They both melt in the face of any heat. Sherrod Brown accuses Obama of sexism toward Elizabeth Warren. Oh, my God. I'll be right back.
Savage.
The Savage Nation is sponsored by SwissAmerica.com, the only company I, Michael Savage, trust to buy my gold and silver from. SwissAmerica.com. Do you suffer from blurred vision, memory loss, hallucinations, mental confusion, brain fog, incoherent speech? You have trouble remembering anything? Do you? You ever fall into any one of those categories of, you can't remember something after it? Well, let me explain something to you. There are many kinds of prescription drugs that can cause memory loss, and plenty of OTC medications as well. Prescription drugs cause over 100,000 deaths a year and cause another 1.9 million people to experience side effects that they have to be hospitalized. So let me tell you the story about this, the kind of drugs that cause memory loss. You may not know there's a connection between a drug you take. And by the way, liberals, don't pay attention to me because I'm only a conservative with a real PhD from a great university. I would appreciate if liberals turn the radio off now. I'd like you to do the opposite of what I'm telling sane people to do right now. if you take a drug that starts with anti, such as antihistamine, antidepressant, antipsychotic, antibiotic, antispasmodic, antihypertensive,